Alright, we're recording.
What's happening, everybody? It's Intuitive Tarot Read. It's Michelle and Ryan. We're going to read some cards.
Yep.
Just figure we get together and throw some cards around and read some themes. Or actually, we're not going to read themes. Ryan suggested, dude, just read cards, man.
Yeah. Let's see what comes up. I got, my lovely Vice Versa Tarot, which are pretty much Rider-Waite, but double vision.
And me, of course, right away. Just
Traditional.
the traditional. But we figured we'd get together and try something for you guys. And we're going to do a 3-card. So...
Holy crap.
Alright.
My deck decided to be nice.
There you go.
It's all the backsides.
That is true. So what do you have? What's the first one down?
Alright, so first one is King of Pentacles, that side. Hierophant, that side. And then Death, that side, reversed. Because Vice Versa goes this side and that side instead of front and back.
Ah, I'm not really familiar with those guys.
The
actual deck is Vice Versa. It's called Vice Versa?
It's called Vice Versa. So
okay.
That's King of Pentacles.
Whoa.
And then it's reading backside.
It's kind of like a mind trick thing.
Yeah. And of course, your Hierophant. And then Death.
Everyone's favorite.
And reversed.
And then I have the Ten of Wands, the Queen of Swords reversed, and the Wheel of Fortune reversed. And just for a visual, my Wands, he was reversed. My Queen, she's reversed. He was reversed? No, he was upright. Sorry, folks, he was upright. Okay, she was reversed, and then my Wheel of Fortune, of course, reversed. Okay.
Alright, so.
You want to go? You want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
What do you get?
Alright, so.
And we're just interpreting energy and actually just intuiting, or just is that a word? Intuiting?
I think so.
Can I intuit?
Yeah.
We're just intuit, yeah, randomly. So let's see what happens. What do you get?
Alright, so King of Pentacles. That side usually means for the courts is the inside, the strength behind the ruler and whatnot. So he's got. It's a sunny day. It's a field. He's overlooking a lush field, a castle, and all that. And behind him is just as much. Fruitfulness. He depends. His strength comes from his growth, his fruitfulness, and his throne is made of steady, solid rock. He is solid and steady. He's surrounded by just lushness. So, there's that one. It's just growth. That which is behind and beneath you and supports you is everything you've grown and accomplished. And then Hierophant. So the Hierophant is, of course, the holder of the religion, the dogma, and whatnot. But what comes behind him is fruitfulness, and also because you can't have dogma without the key to it. And this baby back here is holding the key, and it's a child. So there's the child and the baby, and then the fertility goddess, and then an apple, which is also, I believe, usually signifies fertility. And then, of course, if you go with Christian theme, sin, because they usually use an apple, even though it probably wasn't.
Pomegranate.
Yeah. Pomegranate.
That's what I heard. But go ahead.
Yeah. So behind all that dogma, behind the dogma and the religious structures and whatnot, there's all kinds of different things that comes from ancient practices. Because that fertility goddess, she's that fertility goddess right there. That's an ancient fertility goddess and whatnot. And then of course the child holds the key. So there's to really dig down into the dogma and the structures of it, because even all that mystical pentagram and whatnot is, you have to get past, to actually dig into it, you have to have a childlike view and whatnot, and realize the ancient structures.
Grow, so you can grow. Yeah.
And that comes back to that. And then death. Well, this is the that side, and it's in reverse. But from the opposite side, from death's point of view. So this is from death's point of view. Is the two men kneeling in front of him, been described as an alchemist and a merchant, and they're both at peace. The alchemist holds a lily, which is purity. Lily's purity, and then the merchant is an orchid, which is, what is that? I think it's something to do with the spirituality.
Like a new beginning, a budding.
Yeah.
A new beginning. Yeah.
So they're both holding that, and their faces are serene and at peace. They know change is coming, and they're accepting of it, and they're hoping to grow from it. And then behind them, you can't tell if the sun is setting or rising, but it's in between. But it's right there. It's at either the beginning or the end of a cycle. Well, it's at one end of a cycle, whether it's the beginning or the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's held steady between two pillars. And then there's a lady dancing naked behind them, she's dancing freely and spiritedly. So basically, the general overall theme of all three of them is growth, new beginnings, and digging down. You know, this is in. I'm sure. Remember, this is in reverse. But I think it's emphasizing the dirt beneath them. Is instead of like, hey, that's not going to be that. It's like all of this is here, but it comes from this. It comes from the dirt. It comes from digging down, doing the dirty work.
It's another foundational thing.
The gardening.
Yeah, another foundational thing. You know what's interesting, even as you're talking, and I'm looking at my spread.
Yeah.
And this is just off the hip, guys. But if we were to lend ourselves to intuition or spirit, it's funny how, because I'm about to talk about my 3 cards, and it feels like it's going to piggyback off of what Ryan is sharing with you guys as well. And my point is, you can't make it say that. You know what I mean?
Nope.
You can't make it say.
Nope, I'm sitting here.
Say what I'm about to say, but I hear what you're. But
thinking.
Because from my perspective, I'm seeing what you're saying is basically foundationally there's a new beginning that's coming forth. You're saying if you dig down and really
if you
establish yourself, stabilize and establish yourself, there's something coming forth. And so I'm going to jump over here with my cards, and my first one is the Ten of Wands. It's reversed. And
no, it's upright.
It's upright. Thanks, Ryan. I hang out with bats. I see things reversed, man. So I still wanted to be reversed. But so one of the themes with that card was that the inability to see the forest because of the trees, and because it's wands, we know that that's will. And once again, so we're going to look at this intuitively and not necessarily traditionally. So I would say this, rather than not being able to see the forest because of the trees, I'm saying it being a 10 card, it's the ending of old things, which to me coincides with Ryan's card of death. Death also, we all know, is new beginnings and endings. And I'm looking at my 10 of Wands as something coming to an end. And as it's coming to an end, I'm connecting it with my Queen of Swords. She is reversed. And the swords, though it's an air element, I'm looking at this from a viewpoint of intellect. And so there's some intellectual things that energy may no longer be applicable. And because she's reversed, so it's not only just external, like knowing something on the surface, but deep down inside, I may want to gravitate from some of my old ways of doing things and start to experience new beginnings. My issue, my contrast, is my Wheel of Fortune. And my Wheel of Fortune is speaking that if I do the very thing I just advocated, my problem is that I may think it's risky. And I'm looking at Ryan's Hierophant because, like he said, like religious structures, this, that, and the. So as I'm going forward, it may be difficult to fully relinquish what I'm accustomed to experience something new, which is fine. And this is the beauty of it. So if that's my stance, so you go to where the flow is. Maybe it is a little bit at a time as it starts to unfold. Referring back to the baby and the vice versa card, maybe it's something new that's beginning, and it's not like this huge quantum leap. And I think sometimes in spirituality, reading cards, we want this epiphany, and they do happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I had this moment, my entire life changed, and that's wonderful. But sometimes we forget it's also the little things.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like in this one, the child's not so much new beginning, but you have to look at that which is with a child's perspective, with a fresh perspective.
Right.
Like change it up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's really. I'm all excited. We're like talking over each other, like yes.
And I mean that epiphany thing. It's like I've noticed with my reading, epiphanies come in small doses. It's like that's why I sit there and I finally started just talking. It's like it. I might say something that I'm like. 5 minutes later, I go back and go, oh, wait, no, I actually meant this. But, because I got to connect it all.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's all connected, and it's also connecting with yours.
Yeah.
Because it's like, the Wheel of Fortune's always turning and changing, and it's the same thing. Nothing ever changes, but everything always does.
Right.
And that comes down to the Hierophant, and it's funny, it's like your end card, but it's my middle card.
Exactly.
But they're still connected. It's like, it's the same old thing, but you got to relook at it.
Yeah. It's like this progressive thing. You know what's funny, even as you're talking, so I'm sitting here, and I'm like, oh man, I'm breaking out in a cold sweat. Because normally when you do these things, it's like, I'm going to read for someone else, so I'm on the friends, and then I'm thinking like, actually, this is speaking of me, Is this connected with anyone? If not, it's like, I get the message. It's really talking to me. Yeah. And with what you were saying about the Hierophant, something else with my Queen of Swords, because I'm looking at doing new things, and there's some old spiritual things that I'm actually sifting through, and that's something you and I haven't even talked about. Yeah. So it's coming out in a read so bad. And so I'm looking at turning a corner with even my tarot practice, incorporating some other things. So that being said, with my queen, if you look at it, the symbolism of it is some of her backstory is that her head is above the clouds. Yeah. And I think in times past I was so immersed in this, it was like a fog. And so I really questioned, was I looking at tarot from a fresh perspective? And I had apprehensions because you function from where you're comfortable. Yeah. Why challenge that if it's working, Yeah. And so when, if I'm negating my own growth, then obviously I want to explore some avenues I'm not accustomed to. Yeah. And it may be a little uncomfortable because I may be ignorant to it, and that's fine. Yeah. But here's something. I just have to come back, man, because this fascinates me. Ryan and I are talking, and we're just like, we're going to throw some cards, dude. That's all we're going to do, and just see what happens.
And now they're talking to each other.
And I mean, I'm not trying to play to the count. I mean, this is a natural thing that's happening. Yeah. And as the dialogue unfolds, I'm thinking, wow, this is really, really talking to... obviously, I hope it's talking to you guys out there, but... Interesting, as I always say.
Yeah.
Interesting. They're my two words.
Yeah. Yeah, and even what you're saying with the head above the clouds, like getting into a fog of the same rut, that's actually part of what I like doing different cards, or different decks. Because then it's like, say the Hierophant and my vice versa. It's your traditional Rider-Waite type deal. I mean, different, artwork and all that, he's faceless. But if I go to, say, my Mystical Cats deck, it's he's the priest. And it's an Egyptian temple. Instead of your, looks kind of like a Grecian Christian type deal. That's where you come into, he's more akin to the High Priestess in a traditional deck. This is the mystic and the mysteries. I am the holder of these, and these are established religions, but they are deep mysteries. Whereas the High Priestess in that one she's a very ethereal-looking cat sitting in a crystal cave. But from your perspective, you can't tell if it's a cave or a tunnel because behind her is an opening. And it's like, and that leads itself to not so much deep mysteries, but ethereal, spiritual mysteries of into your astral plane. Okay. Whereas the High Priestess in like this one is the deep mysteries, and the Hierophant is the established religion. And it's like, that's a lot of why I like the different decks, because I don't get stuck. I'm having to constantly change my perspective with each deck. I'm like having to okay, what is this card saying? And it's like,
how did, wow. Wow, I need a notebook. Thank God we're recording this.
Yeah.
Here's something that
So I don't even know where
comes
that
to
came
mind. With you operate predominantly from 3 separate decks, right? It's because am I missing one? It's 3, isn't it? It's these
Yeah, I
guys,
think
cat
so.
deck, and then you have. Is
The
there another
Celestial.
one? The Celestial, right?
Yeah, I've slowly gotten away from my Gilded deck, which was my
Good,
original
that's the
one.
one I was thinking about. Okay, what happened as you reflect? You have these 3 decks.
Mhm.
Did they come at a particular time as you were seeking something, and then it started to speak in that arena, or? I guess I'm saying is how did they coincide with your growth
Yeah.
as you came into these guys? That's interesting.
So I got the Gilded when I was first started getting
Okay.
interested, because I knew like almost immediately once I started on a pagan path, I wanted to read tarot cards, because I'm like, I've always just loved the feel of cards in my hands. I used to collect card decks, just your regular old card decks, and I only actually have one anymore.
Gotcha.
Or maybe 2. I can't remember, but so I loved the feel, and I used to like to play to pretend that I was cartography, but I couldn't quite allow myself to actually full-on pretend, because it was just that kind of behind the scenes, but very Christian, and this is evil, and all that, so I can't actually say this what I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the Gilded, and that's basically a modernized version of the regular Wider Waite. It's just prettier artwork and all that. I think I'm most...
How dare you, sir? I just caught that. Anyway, proceed.
That one, interesting enough, the thing that really made me get it was the Devil card.
Ah.
And it's because it's so beautiful. Honestly, that Devil is beautiful.
He does play a part. That makes sense.
And I'm like, so that I got, and then I slowly, as I started working with that more, but I wasn't quite like delving in deep and working consistently. I was like, I've heard about multiple decks, and I kind of want another one. So I went to Barnes & Noble, and I happened upon the cat deck. And I don't know exactly where I was in my growth. I mean, it was past just getting into it, but I was still in the kiddie pool type deal.
Okay.
Only dipped my foot in. And then that's the amount of decks I've had until I came down here. And then Strega opened, and it's like... what was the next one I got? I think I got the Celestial deck next. Was it? No, I got the I can never remember the name. It's French. It starts with it's La F something, but it's actually a Marseille deck. So that one, and I think about that point I was looking to really start challenging myself and really start digging in depth. And that one is a freaking challenge, because it's like they're pips. They're not pictures.
Gotcha.
And then they don't correspond to the traditional, because it's roses, masks. I think there might be swords.
But yet there's still a correspondence, though, that you relate to.
And still, of course, it took me forever to actually like figure out, okay, this corresponds, the roses correspond to pentacles, this corresponds to fire, and all that. And I had to look at it from an elemental perspective more so than the like swords.
So because
pentacles.
People watching this and interested in tarot, it's what I've noticed even when I give classes, that there's this concern that there has to be almost I don't know, man, like this moment I have to connect with these cards, and it has to work. And this seems to be a theme. Sometimes it's slight and progressive.
Yeah, I've noticed mine, because then there was the Marseille, and it was like almost too much of a step, but it's not quite the direction I want to go, but I still do like those cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got my Celestial ones, which is when I was starting to dig a little bit more into astrology, because they're very astrological. And no, I'm not all that interested in astrology, so long as I know the basics, whatever.
Right.
And I like stars and whatnot. So so long as I know the basic story behind the constellations, I'm cool, and I can actually read those. Those are more of a challenge. Then I got these next, and they're even more of a challenge, because you get a different perspective. You get 156 images instead of 78. Yeah. So, basically mine have slowly been getting more complicated, and I've actually got 2 decks at Strega that are still in my holding spot, and they did... Yeah, I think they're more complex, too. I think one of them is kind of a little bit simpler than the other one, but the one of them is the artwork that's going to be challenging, because it's similar to my Celestial, because it's so wispy. It's got so much wisp in it. But it's a lot more almost dreamlike state type artwork. So, yeah, I think basically when it comes to my decks, I slowly get more and more challenging.
Because but this is, and even from what you're explaining, you're developing, your focus is the development of your spirituality as you go forward, right?
Pretty much. Yeah,
and then it's still applicable though if someone just wants to do a 3 card and just know how their day's going.